Hey guys, Stephanie with AmericanMuscle.com here with a review and install of the BMR Drag Lowering Springs for 2015 and newer Mustangs. We're going to be talking about a few different things with these springs, but mostly we'll talk about what you can expect from these springs in both the performance and looks categories, and we're also going to talk about the install as well. I'll talk more about the install later, but you're looking at a 2 out of 3 wrenches in the difficulty meter. The BMR Drag Lowering Springs are going to be a good option for the S550 owners out there who are looking for a drag spring that's going to help transfer weight for better acceleration. Lowering springs have a big impact on both the looks and handling of these cars, and these springs are a linear spring that are going to offer a pretty big drop. These springs will drop the S550 about 1.2 inches in the front of the car and 0.5 inches in the rear. It may not sound like it, but this is a good amount of drop for the S550, and even though these springs aren't as much about the looks improvements as they are about performance, you're still going to be gaining in the looks area. Depending on your wheel and tire setup, this drop is going to eliminate a lot of the wheel gap that the car has from the factory, and it's going to leave the car sitting a little bit above the tires, but of course that can change depending on what size wheels you're running. Keeping on track with the subject of the drop that these springs offer, keep in mind that a 1-inch drop or just under a 1-inch drop is pretty standard across the board for this year range. So the 1.2 inch and 0.5 inch drop is gonna make for a change in the car's appearance as well as give you those performance changes. And you're also lowering the car's center of gravity, so you're gonna see some handling benefits as well. But the main purpose of these springs is for straight line acceleration, so these focus on weight transfer to help with traction. Now, none of this means that these springs won't work on a daily driven car. They'll work just fine. These springs are also still going to work with both the factory wheels and the pre-configured wheel and tire kits that are on the site. When it comes to shopping for a set of springs, it really all comes down to your personal preference and what you want out of the springs. These springs were specifically designed to be a drag spring, so you have to keep that in mind if you've got a street car and you're worried about ride quality. Now with that being said, I want to mention that these are linear springs. These are not the progressive rate springs that we tend to see that are going to change as you drive. Linear springs have a constant rate of force per inch, so they have one defined spring rate and that's it. So basically, as the load on the spring increases, the spring compresses an amount directly proportional to that load, and this makes a linear spring more performance-oriented than a progressive rate spring. Progressive rate springs, or variable rate springs, have low initial spring rates that increase as the spring is compressed, which makes for a softer and smoother ride quality. I do want to say that a lot of times when you're shopping for lowering springs, you're also shopping for things like adjustable caster camber plates and a new set of both shocks and struts. In this case, I wouldn't say that caster camber plates are necessarily required, but I will say that a 1.5 inch drop is about the limit of where you need a set of adjustable caster camber plates in order to get your alignment within spec. It's gonna be close, so a set of caster camber plates wouldn't be a bad idea at all. At the end of the day, it never hurts to have caster camber plates, so if you've got the extra cash, I'd say go ahead. But in all reality, you will be able to get away without picking up a set. As far as the shocks and struts, this goes back to the drop and the performance that you want out of the car. I'd say that you can get away with the factory shocks and struts in this case due to the fact that you probably don't have any miles on your components at this time. But if you're really looking for drag strip performance, it's always a good idea to pick up a set of adjustable rear shocks to help with that weight transfer and your traction. When it comes to price, it all depends on how you buy these springs. BMR offers a full set for between $200 and $300, or you could purchase just the front or just the rear springs. The front springs will cost just over $100, and the rears will cost right about $150, so you do have some options there. Now, as far as the price for the set of springs goes, these springs are going to be one of the middle of the road options. They're not the most expensive, but they're not the least expensive either. But if you're just looking to get your car lower and you aren't concerned with ride quality, there are some other options on the site that cost a little less and will get you where you need to be. So the install here is going to take about 4 hours. I'm going to call it a 2 out of 3 wrenches on the scale. You will need some knowledge to complete this install, so I'd recommend having a knowledgeable helping hand or taking this to a shop for the install, especially since it's always a good idea to get an alignment after the install anyway. This install can be done on jack stands if you don't have access to a lift, but as usual, a lift would be your best bet here. You're going to need a few tools, including a spring compressor, so make sure you have that before you start the install. You're going to need to get down to the spring and strut assembly, so everything like the wheels, the brakes, the ABS lines will need to be moved out of the way so you can pull the assemblies out of the car. The spring compressor will help you remove the spring from the strut and install the new front springs, which are compressed and installed the same way. The strut assemblies go back the same way they came out, and the install is the same for both sides. The rear is where things are a little bit different, but it's nothing crazy. Essentially, the IRS subframe will be dropped along with the rear shock mount so you can slide the rear springs out. Just like the front, the rear springs install the same way that they were uninstalled. There's no surprises there. And after the new springs are in, you can begin reinstalling the shocks and everything else that you uninstalled, and that's about all it's going to take. Like I mentioned earlier, a fresh alignment after the install isn't a bad idea. Wrapping things up here, the BMR drag lowering springs are a linear spring with an aggressive drop and improvements in handling to make for a car that feels track ready. They'll drop the car 1.2 inches in the front and 0.5 inches in the rear, and they're designed to get better weight transfer for better traction. The springs are not difficult to install, they're at the middle of the pack as far as pricing goes, and you can check them out more online right here at AmericanMuscle.com.